Choosing an engineering degree is the most challenging thing that a young STEM student has to face up to that point in their entire life. In the tens of thousands of comments that I get on this YouTube channel, about half of those are just about this: how to pick the right engineering major. The anxiety, the concern, the worry about picking the wrong thing is present in all of these comments. I understand it can be overwhelming. There's so many choices, and nowadays every student knows about the pain that is student loans, and so there's this fear of picking the wrong thing and regretting it, having to backpedal, being forced to go to grad school, being forced into a career that you don't even like, things like this. So if you feel this way, do not worry, you're not alone. It's a very common problem. And as vast as the internet is, there still is not that many pieces of good information about this, particularly because there's so many people who are trying to convince you that engineering isn't the way so they can sell you some course. Your teachers don't know, your guidance counselors don't know. So unless you have a parent or a family member as an engineer, it can be very challenging and isolating to be in this situation. And Shane Holmes and Matthew Tran definitely don't know. I made a response video recently to Shane's engineering degree tier list, and it's doing super well, which is mostly analyzing all the flaws in his video, and there's a lot. But in this video, now it's time for me to make my actual engineering degree tier list. So good thing you made it here. Today we're gonna go over the most important things when choosing a major, the reasons why certain engineering majors are good and others are not so great, and how you can even understand where interests and skill sets and passions may lie, and what type of engineering majors I think are future-proof. So this way you don't have to worry about this decision anymore and you can move on with your engineering journey. So in this video, we're going over the top 11 engineering majors in 2021 and beyond, and we're starting right now. Hey 1% Nation, I'm Jake Voorhees, and welcome back to the 1% Engineer Show, where we empower young engineers to rise to the top 1% of their career. So if this is you, make sure you hit the notification bell and subscribe. This is episode 137, so if you're new here, make sure you go and check out our other videos. See the links below for things like access to our Discord server, the free 1% Engineer Kit, a link to our IG page, and more. What type of engineering program do you want to do? Comment below. With that being said, let's get right into this video. This video is backed by data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics around salary information and the amount of engineers that exist in each sector right now, along with how many degrees are being awarded into the industry by an organization called ASEE, the American Society for Engineering Education. All right, we're going to start our list with biomedical engineering, number 11. We're starting with BME because we cannot possibly omit it from this list, but it just barely makes it, and this is why. Biomedical engineering is the application of engineering principles and design concepts to medicine and biology for healthcare purposes. This field seeks to close the gap between engineering and medicine, combining the design and problem-solving skills of engineering with medical biological sciences to advance healthcare solutions. Majoring in BME sounds like a good idea, and it's definitely a super cool industry. But based on what I'm about to show you, this is why it's last on the list. Let's start here. I just love this blog post from medicaldevicesgroup.net, and the article title is "Good Advice, Don't Major in Biomedical Engineering." There's only 21,000 jobs for biomedical engineers that exist today, not job openings, actual positions where people have the title biomedical engineer. And as you can see, they're adding about 7,000 degrees per year. So you do the math, that doesn't look very good for biomedical engineering. I've developed this concept called a saturation ratio, which is essentially the fraction of the amount of degrees added to the industry divided by the amount of jobs that actually exist. So as you can see, this is 33% saturated, which is not that great. Biomedical engineering actually has 98 different ABET accredited programs for the degree, but still I think there are too many degrees being pumped out into the industry, and biomedical engineers oftentimes cannot get jobs. And sure, biomedical engineering is growing at 5% per year, but it doesn't matter if it's already so small at 21,000 jobs. And then I also want to point out the fact, using this table, that only 45% of biomedical engineers actually are able to even enter the workforce with their 4-year degree. So many need to go get a master's or a PhD. In fact, 1/5 of working biomedical engineers actually have a PhD. That's a little mind-blowing to me, which if you compare it to a lot of other core engineering like the big three, electrical, civil, and mechanical, this is just not the case. Engineering is one of the best majors because with most degrees you can walk into a corporate situation and start your career, make a great salary, have a path to career advancement, and work on cool projects and start a very nice engineering journey. That's not always the case. That's not the case with biomedical engineering. So that's why it's here at number 11 on this list. I do not suggest that people get a biomedical engineering degree. It's much better to do something like mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, and then you can concentrate or focus your technical electives, your internships, your networking, your research, the clubs, organizations, and societies that you join in biomedical engineering if this is what you want. That way, you have more flexibility because your degree, which would be mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, can open up more opportunities for you for other directions if you choose. Also, it's a little bit better to choose a more general engineering, because what if you decide halfway through your engineering student career or even a few years into your actual professional career that biomedical engineering is not the best for you? What you've done if you choose biomedical engineering is you've narrowed your focus, you've isolated yourself, and it's a little bit more challenging to backpedal. You're going to see that theme here today, guys, is that I'm a big proponent of larger core engineering groups like civil, mechanical, electrical. The more jobs that exist, the better I think it is for those majors, and that does not include BME, so it's number 11. Next on the list is chemical engineering. So first of all, chemical engineers work in manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, design and construction, pulp and paper, petrochemicals, food processing, specialty chemicals, microelectronics, electronic and advanced materials, polymers, business services, biotechnology. You get the point. You can do almost anything with a chemical engineering degree. It's entirely flexible, it's entirely broad, but I still don't think it's a great type of engineering. Also, it's considered one of the most challenging engineering majors you can possibly get. Chemistry and chemical engineering, if you look at the most challenging majors on lots of different queries, commonly sits at number 2, number 3 of the lowest GPAs in university. And if you take a look at this saturation ratio, there's only 32,000 chemical engineering jobs in America right now, and last year there were over 11,000 degrees awarded for that industry. This ratio is even worse than biomedical engineering, so there's just so many degrees being added to a sector where it cannot possibly support the amount of jobs. So chemical engineering graduates are forced to step outside of chemical engineering roles, like process engineering, or even computer science roles, or pharmaceutical roles, or go to grad school in some sort of other niche that is not engineering in order to gain employment. And even though chemical engineering has 155 different programs in the country, I'm still not that excited about it. I met a lot of chemical engineers who are incredibly brilliant and got good grades and survived one of the hardest college majors you can possibly choose, and then they can't get a job in chemical engineering because there's so few roles. And if you take a look at chemical engineering, you'll see here that under half of working chemical engineers are actually working with just that bachelor's. So almost a quarter of them have a master's degree, and a large percentage, just like biomedical engineering, of chemical engineers actually have a PhD in order to be qualified for the job that exists for their career. So this is why it's number 10, not that many jobs, bad saturation ratio, needed advanced degree, and it's really challenging. Why not just major in something else that's a little bit easier, has better jobs, and the salary, yeah, sure, it's great, but I really don't look at things like $108,000 salary when you could do aerospace, computer engineering, electrical engineering even has a median salary that's higher than this, so I just don't like chemical engineering. Now, why would you potentially choose chemical engineering? Say you absolutely know exactly which sector that you want to work on within chemical engineering, and you've been in love with it forever. You really like chemistry and the intersection of engineering and chemistry, and it's been your life plan, and you've talked to lots of engineers, and you've even done some projects, and you really have already gotten your feet wet with it somehow before you even get into university. And another thing is, if you live in an area, a country, a culture, a city that actually has a lot of chemical engineering and you want to be there for a while, that's another exception to this. But otherwise, I'm really not that enthusiastic about chemical engineering. Number 9 on the list, we have material science engineers. Materials engineering careers involve the study, development, and testing of materials required in a wide range of manufacturing products. Materials engineers may work to find new uses for existing materials, or they may use basic types of materials like metals, ceramics, plastics, semiconductors, and composites to create brand new substances that meet the specifications of a particular project. Materials engineering is a very cool field, but again, just like biomedical and chemical, it is a pretty narrow avenue. There's only 27,000 working materials engineers here in America right now. And the other thing that's interesting with this major is that there are more masters and PhDs awarded every year than even undergraduate degrees. 54% of the degrees are graduate degrees. So it shows you that in order to have a successful career, you basically need to go to grad school. The salary's not even that high, $93,000 median, which is just ahead of some of the core big three. So I'm just not a big fan of it. What type of person might be interested in materials engineering? I have a friend who went on to get his PhD in this field, and he works on really cool things like aerospace engineering, composite surfaces, and it's really cool. But again, you could end up doing that with a standard mechanical engineering degree or something that doesn't absolutely require you to go get your master's or your PhD. So it's an okay major, but here it sits at number 9 on the list. Next up, we have environmental engineering. Environmental engineering takes from broad scientific topics like chemistry, biology, ecology, geology, hydraulics, hydrology, microbiology, and mathematics to create solutions that will protect and also improve the health of living organisms and improve the quality of our environment. Environmental engineering is a subdiscipline of both civil engineering and chemical engineering. So here we are finally at an engineering sector that has over 50,000 jobs. Environmental engineering is 9th on the list with the amount of total jobs in an engineering sector. There's only 70 programs that are actually environmental engineering in America, but one thing that's interesting here is that oftentimes, just like my degree, you will see civil and environmental engineering combined together in the actual major. So that's why there's only 70. And besides that, the only thing with environmental engineering is that there are a lot of people who are going back to school and getting graduate degrees in comparison to the amount of undergrads. About 47% of the degrees that are awarded every year are graduate degrees. So you might be asking yourself, how can it be that only about 2,400 environmental engineering degrees are awarded, but there's over 55,000 environmental engineers working today? And that's because a lot of chemical engineers end up sitting in environmental engineering roles. So it's a little bit competitive in that regard. I also think that even though environmental engineering says that it's a 3% growth rate based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there has to be more environmental engineering interest because we are destroying this planet with fossil fuels and plastic usage and petrochemical use. So this, I think, is going to be a better major. Yeah, the salary is pretty standard in comparison to a lot of other big engineering, but that's fine. A lot of this video is not based on salary because salary doesn't really have to do with the degree that you have. It has to do with who you know and the skills that you've developed and how special you have become within your employer. Another thing I like about environmental engineering is that it's actually the only engineering sector that is slightly more women than men. I do get a lot of comments from women in engineering who are a little bit intimidated by things like mechanical, aerospace, electrical, and computer engineering that are under 15% women, but environmental engineering is actually 50.6% women based on 2008 data. Only about 22% of engineering degrees are awarded to women, but in environmental engineering, it's over half, which is pretty cool. All right, number 7. It was really hard for me to decide which should be 7 and 8, so I think this is pretty close to a tie with environmental engineering, but the next one is industrial and systems engineering. Most engineering fields are traditionally decompositional. To understand the whole of something, it is first broken down into its parts. Once the parts are mastered, you then put them back together to create a better understanding of how to master the whole. The approach of industrial and systems engineering is the opposite. Any one part cannot be understood without the context of the entire system. Changes in one part of the system affect the whole system, and the role of a single part is to better serve the umbrella system entirely. Industrial engineering has the fastest growth rate of all the engineering degrees right now. Based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's growing at 10% per year. And right now I have this thing that I call the big three, which is electrical, civil, and mechanical engineering. And next year, industrial engineering will pass that 300,000 mark. So I guess I'm going to start saying the big four. There's not that many programs for the amount of industrial engineers that exist, only 68 ABET accredited programs. And this is because lots of people who are in civil or mechanical engineering end up working in industrial engineering. So it's really not on a lot of engineers' radar. The pay is not fantastic. Again, pretty average, almost 90,000 for the median salary. And there's a lot of people who end up getting a master's degree in industrial engineering. It's not just because industrial engineering requires that you get a master's degree. I think it's mostly because someone gets a degree in either operations management or systems management or some other type of engineering, and they want to become a specialist in industrial engineering, so they go out and get their bachelor's degree. Because it is so different and has a system-wide approach, there's other types of skills that are more relevant in industrial engineering, like communication. You deal with a lot of human factors. You have a lot of operations management and just things that are present within industrial engineering that would never be the case in other engineerings because it does have that opposite approach to the industry. So it's a very cool major. Because there's fewer programs and it's a little bit of a non-standard engineering. I couldn't really rank it much higher than 7th on this list. So there you have it, guys, industrial engineering. Next on the list at number 6, you have computer engineering. Computer engineering is a branch of engineering that integrates several fields of computer science and electronic engineering required to develop computer hardware and software. Computer engineering is a branch of electrical and electronic engineering. There's two camps of computer engineers. You have computer software engineers who end up working with primarily the programming and the software engineering component and integration with computer systems. And then of course you have computer hardware engineering. And for this video, we're going to be focusing on that computer hardware engineering element. The Bureau of Labor Statistics does report exclusively on computer hardware engineering because the computer engineers that end up working as programmers or software engineers get lumped into the job category that is software developers. Computer engineers make a pretty good salary. It's actually the second on the list at $117,000 for median income. There's 71,000 positions just for computer hardware engineers in America alone, which is pretty solid. There's 218 accredited programs, which is fantastic. And those programs are not the programs that are electrical and computer engineering, which is incredibly common. Those are just computer engineering programs. It's only growing at about 2% per year. It's a little bit sluggish because there is this offset in hardware engineering being slowly overtaken by more and more momentum around software development, software engineering, and pure electrical engineering instead of the electronic side of things that is computer engineering. I really like it as a major because it's also one of the degrees where you could pursue a mechatronics career and work with mechatronic systems or robotics, which I get so many questions about robotics nowadays, guys. And the mechatronics video is doing pretty well on the channel, so check that out. We also have a What Do Computer Engineers video that's doing super well, so check out both of those after this video. All right, getting down to the top 5. 5th on the list is aerospace engineering. Aerospace engineering is the primary field of engineering concerned with the development of aircraft and spacecraft. It has two major overlapping branches: aeronautical engineering, which is things within the atmosphere, and astronautical engineering, which is things in outer space. So I can say with absolute confidence that if I was going to repeat my engineering career, I would definitely do aerospace engineering. I am in love with SpaceX and Blue Origin and the moonshots and what all these rocket and space exploration companies are doing nowadays. We are definitely going to have a colony on the moon. We're definitely going to have a colony on Mars. We're definitely going to be mining asteroids one day. Go ahead and start reading about what becoming a galactic species looks like. We definitely have the capacity to colonize other planets and potentially even other solar systems. That's what, to me, where the most exciting things are headed in engineering. It's the third highest engineering salary at $116,000 for its median. Bureau of Labor Statistics only says a 3% growth rate, which is ridiculous, and it's wrong. If you look back at what they predicted for software development in the 2000s and the 2010s, they were always wrong. It did not say 22% growth like it does today. So we're going to see that increase. There's 66,000 jobs in aerospace engineering right now, which is not bad. Only 53 programs to major in aerospace engineering. That's also because a lot of mechanical engineers move into aerospace engineering careers and you don't have as many programs. The graduate school requirement or saturation ratio is not that bad. For every 3 undergraduate degrees awarded, there's someone who's getting their master's or PhD in this field. It also is rocket science at a certain level, so that's why there's a decent bit of masters and PhDs awarded here. So check out aerospace engineering if you find yourself captivated by aircraft, spacecraft, thermo and fluid dynamics, and if you are into SpaceX and if you're into the colonization of planetary systems, check out aerospace engineering for sure. All right, here we come to number 4, civil engineering. Civil engineering is what I studied in university, and that was the plan my entire life. Civil engineers work with any sort of infrastructure. There's 5 branches. You have structural, which is the primary, transportation, geotechnical, environmental, and then coastal and marine systems. So it's very broad. Civil engineers can work anywhere and with anything. And it sits here at number 4 because it is one of the big 3. There's only 3 types of engineering that have over 300,000 jobs, and civil engineering actually has more existing engineers employed than any other type of engineering at 329,000 roles. The growth rate is only 2% per year, but again, it has so many people employed, so I'm not too worried about that. There's 256 ABET accredited programs in America. Not that bad of a master's degree ratio, only about 32% of degrees awarded are graduate degrees. And because of the sheer number of jobs, civil engineering sits at the top of this video at number 4. Not because I studied it. The median salary is not incredible at a little under $90,000 a year, but so is mechanical, industrial, environmental. You have a lot that just are shy of 90,000. The other thing I like about civil engineering is that it is actually recession proof, unlike a lot of sectors. All my civil engineering friends have said that even during COVID, civil engineering firms have been going sky high. This is because a lot of governments will subsidize infrastructure spending because it hires a lot of jobs and generates a lot of money spending. So it is a pretty safe industry. Plus, we are never truly going to leave infrastructure behind. You have a lot of technological paradigm shifts in certain industries and things will go obsolete, but we are always going to need physical infrastructure like buildings and bridges and piping and utilities. And even if we start to go into outer space, we're going to need to build colonies on other planets. And so who do you think is going to do that? It will be civil engineers. So it's very safe for the future. You can work anywhere you want. And if you invest your career in things like BIM, building information modeling, you can stand out from other people and have a cool career. Plus, there's a lot of little tiny niches within civil engineering that you can have a sweet, awesome career. I want to give a shout out to my buddy Grant Waldy, who's a bridge inspector. That's an example of something that's super duper cool. He climbs the tallest bridges all over North America, flies all over the place to find these, writes reports, and basically runs his own business unit for the company that he works for. I chose civil because of its integration to technology within traffic, intelligent transportation systems, drones, connected vehicles, and things like that. So it's a very cool career. I'm very optimistic about its future, and that's why it sits at the number 4 spot on this list. Next up, number 3, mechanical engineering. Mechanical engineering is an engineering branch that combines engineering physics and mathematics principles with materials science to design, analyze, manufacture, and maintain mechanical systems. It is one of the oldest and pretty much the primary bracket of engineering. If you're not sure what type of engineering you should do because you love everything, or you're just sort of more a generalist in engineering, then mechanical engineering is the way to go for you. You can literally work anywhere you want and in any sector that you choose. It's even more flexible than civil engineering in the sense that every single company that builds something or makes something or generates a product has to have mechanical engineers. My biggest video on this channel, nearly 500,000 views, is what do mechanical engineers do? And it goes over a bunch of industries where you can work, and the list is incredibly vast. How do you know if you want to do mechanical versus civil engineering? This part is pretty straightforward to me. If you like to tinker and build things with your hands that have components, like work with engines or do models, and you like the concept of designing individual parts, then mechanical engineering is for you. Civil engineers are more attracted to building structures like forts and Legos, even digital ecosystems like SimCity. That's what I did when I was a kid. I didn't take apart things and put them back together. I built stuff, and that's how I knew civil engineering was for me. There's 316,000 mechanical engineers in the country. Another somewhat standard salary at a median of just under 90,000. There's 337 ABET accredited programs in the country. The saturation ratio is a little alarming, with over 30,000 degrees being added every single year and only 300,000 jobs. And that's, I think, because a lot of engineers do sort of choose mechanical engineering based off of a knee-jerk reaction. They know they're going to be fine, so they just go with mechanical engineering, then they can choose their specialty later. It can get you into any sort of grad school. It can get you into any sort of career direction that you want. So I think it's a great career, and that's why it sits at number 3 on this list. All right, the grand finale, what you've all been waiting for. We actually have a tie for first place in this video. And first, what we're going to talk about is the actual engineering side of this tie, which is, of course, you've been waiting for it, electrical engineering. Electrical engineering is an engineering discipline concerned with the field of study, design, and application of equipment, devices, and systems which use electricity, electronics, and electromagnetism. It's got 328,000 roles right now in America. And one of the only bad things about the electrical engineering degree is that there are a lot of people who get their master's degree here. I think it's for a few reasons. It is decently competitive, but I think it's because so many people know that this is the future. Probably the safest and most future-proof type of engineering degree that you can get today. And this is for 2 reasons. First of all, electrical engineers work with everything electronic. We're going in the direction of nanotechnologies and microelectronics and everything that's going to be using space and robotics. Basically, everything that technology touches, electrical engineers can as well. You have a limitation with within mechanical engineering. We cannot design things to be physically smaller and smaller and smaller, but within electricity and electrical circuitry, there is less of a barrier and is less of a limitation here. Because of this element, it becomes very theoretical. You cannot see electricity, you cannot see magnetism, and for that reason, the types of mathematics that electrical engineers have to take is more challenging. There's more math and more theoretical mathematics in electrical engineering than any other type of engineering. This is why the salary is a little bit higher, because it's considerably more challenging. Another reason why electrical engineering sits at a tie for first in this video is because of its attachment to programming. Electrical engineers have to be sophisticated programmers. You cannot avoid coding and becoming essentially halfway a computer scientist within electrical engineering. It's impossible. And as you know, computer science, programming, coding, whatever you want to call it, guys, is continuing to grow and has lots of opportunities for the future. Just like mechanical engineering, electrical engineers can work in pretty much any sector, and lots of electrical engineers go on to work as software engineers and computer scientists and data scientists. You can do anything you want with this degree, and that's why it's tied for first. Electrical engineering is my number one choice for engineering today. And finally, the absolute last degree that we're going to talk about on this list is actually computer science. I know, a lot of you are going to be shocked that it's tied for first on this list, but I know some of you are going to react like, what is computer science doing tied at first within an engineering degree tier video? And the reason for that is that there are actually 283 ABET accredited computer science programs in America. That's right, a computer science degree by the International Authority on Deeming Your Program Eligible for the Professional Engineering Exam considers 283 programs within computer science to be worthy of being a professional engineer. This is why computer science sits here. And it's tied for first because it has a 22% growth rate. That's more than double the fastest engineering degree growth rate, which is industrial engineering. And the median salary is $107,000 a year, with 1.46 million jobs in computer development in America right now. Not all of those are engineers, of course not. Not all of those are computer scientists. Some of those are data analysts, people working in machine learning, all types of coders and programmers. But this, to me, is the distinction between just being a coder and a programmer and being potentially an engineer. What's different, might you ask? Software engineers, they make software, design software, build software. You can be a programmer, a coder, a data scientist your entire life and not actually make a new piece of software or build a computer program. And this is why computer science, again, because of the ABET accreditation backing, is on this list. Where's software engineering, might you add? Well, there's only 30 software engineering ABET accredited programs in the country compared to 283 computer science. And if you look at the list and you go to ABET's website, there's a bunch of small niche programs, and all of the heavy hitting universities, they don't even offer software engineering. So software engineering gets a mention in this video, but not as a degree, not as a major choice. If you do a bunch of research about what all the software engineers in Silicon Valley and tech companies say about what you should study, they will tell you computer science, not software engineering. Computer science is more broad. Software engineering is a branch of computer science. Computer science is the study of computers and computing, as well as their theoretical and practical applications. Computer science applies the principles of mathematics, engineering, and logic to a plethora of functions, including algorithm formulation, software and hardware development, and artificial intelligence. Just like electrical and mechanical engineering, you can work in any field that you want with a computer science degree. Almost every company needs computer scientists today. So with such a rapid growth rate, with almost 1.5 million jobs, the median salary of $107,000, and 283 ABET accredited, meaning it's considered an engineering type of degree, computer science is tied with electrical engineering on this list, even though it doesn't have the word engineering in its degree title. I mean, take a look at the chart from the ASEE. There's 19,000 degrees that are within an engineering program in 2018. That's more degrees in a single engineering category than anyone else besides mechanical engineering. And even with with such a high number as 19,000, that saturation ratio is only 1.3% because there's almost 1.5 million jobs in software development. And if you have a computer science degree, especially from an ABET accredited school, you could get any of them. So there you have it, guys. That's my engineering degree tier list, my top 11 types of engineering majors that you should look at in 2021 and beyond. What type of engineering program do you want to do? Comment below. If you want a little bit more information about what is right and wrong in terms of choosing an engineering degree, go check out my criticism of Shane Hummus's engineering degree tier list because I tore it to pieces and ate hummus for breakfast. Thanks again for watching the 1% Engineer Show, guys. If you're a young engineer and you want to rise to the top 1% of your career, then make sure you hit the notification bell and subscribe. We have 137 episodes on this channel for your engineering success, so make sure you check out some of those, and we'll see you again in another video. Bye-bye.